Good morning, Minneapolis. Hot dog, do we have a show for you today? Thank you so much for tuning in to Onsite Public Media. My name is Toussaint Morrison, and I'll be your host for Good Morning Minneapolis today. Oh, what is this? A mug. Yes, we have mugs. You're going to hear about the link about that at the end of the show at the bottom. And we also have a link below where you can become a monthly member of Onsite Public Media. So thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate all the support and everybody that asked to be a monthly member. So now you have the ability to, and it's in the button below. In obvious news today, just because your racist uncle doesn't wear a mask doesn't mean that you don't have to. Wear the mask. Just wear it. Pandemic's still here. Wear that mask. All right, our headline news comes from the Hill and the United Nations. The United Nations panel has just voted to remove medical cannabis from a list of dangerous drugs. In a Wednesday, December 2nd vote, the Commission for Narcotic Drugs voted on several World Health Organization, WHO, recommendations related to cannabis. Among them was the recommendation that the drug be stricken from Schedule 4 of the 1961 Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs. And if you're wondering who the good company is that marijuana will be saying goodbye to on the Schedule 4 from the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs in 1961, well, that's heroin, cocaine, and fentanyl. So long, guys. It's been something. So it's 2020. The UN is just realizing that marijuana isn't heroin or fentanyl, and they're rescinding a decision that they made when your grandmother was going to high school in 1961. Welcome to the war on drugs, where black people are locked up 4 times more than white folks for consumption of marijuana, even when both ethnicities reportedly consume marijuana at the same rate. And we here at Onsite Public Media would like to personally congratulate marijuana for no longer having to ride the bus with the likes of heroin and fentanyl and cocaine. I'm sure that's quite a wild ride, and you're about tired of it. Congratulations. Speaking of getting it kind of right, a little too late, let's talk about police departments in the Twin Cities. Minnesota doesn't have the death penalty, but it does have the St. Paul Police Department, the most lethal police department in all of the state of Minnesota, and in the top 20 lethal police departments in the country out of 18,000. Usually when you shoot somebody, you go to jail or you get shot yourself by the cops. But for one lucky officer on the St. Paul Police Department, all that happened was he got fired. Yes, the chief of police at the St. Paul Police Department, Todd Axtell, decided to fire a police officer after shooting at a man, Jonathan Javante Washington, after he sprung out of a dumpster naked, was bitten and ravaged by canine law dogs, and then shot multiple times by an officer that we're speaking of that was then fired by Todd Axtell. Great job for doing your job, Todd. Yes, the video of Washington from the body cam of the St. Paul Police Department of him springing out of a dumpster, being ravaged by canine law dogs, and then shot by St. Paul police officers is extremely disturbing, traumatizing, and you guessed it, Washington is a person of color. Now, this is not to marginalize white people that experience police brutality, but to point out the disproportionate rate at which people of color are brutalized and killed by the St. Paul Police Department. Now, Todd Axtell, the chief, announced that he would be firing the police officer a few days after the shooting, or what we like to call attempted murder. And if that were the only story, we'd be privileged. Alas, it's not. The BCA, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, released this headline later on through KSTP. BCA, St. Paul police shoots man in North End neighborhood, no officers injured. Okay, let's talk problematic propaganda at its blindest. A man has just been bitten ferociously by dogs, has been shot multiple times by a police officer, but all the cops are okay. Can you tell us what you think is wrong with that headline? I know that we can go to some degree of condemnation or insight on it, but we're really curious actually what you think of the BCA's headline, that no officers were injured. Seriously, let us know. And let's take a look at NPR's headline. Okay, bitten by dogs, shot multiple times by a handgun from cops, then handcuffed, wounded. All right. NPR, like cannabis at the UN, you're old, ridiculous, and doing not quite enough for us to celebrate yet, but thank you for trying. Speaking of old and not quite doing enough to celebrate, the Polads. Yes, every city has an old, white, wealthy family to rule them all, and here in Minneapolis, we have the Polads. The Polads have recently sold their Go radio stations, 95.3 and 96.3, to a Christian nonprofit. One can only imagine the Polads sold the radio stations to purchase a time machine to go back to March 20th, 2010 to rescind that mammoth contract they offered to Joe Mauer, $180 million over the course of 8 years, just to make the Twins relevant again. We're kidding. The Polads have never been interested in making Minnesota sports relevant. They just want to make sure that you spend $15 on a hot dog and $10 on a beer from that brewery that doesn't like unions. What were they called? Surly. That's what they're called. Surly. But hey, at least Joe Mauer made it to the playoffs. Okay, $180 million over the course of 8 years is a lot. But it's not as much as $180 million over the course of 1 year, which is the 2021 proposed budget for the Minneapolis Police Department from Mayor Fry. And hey, we all know that the police aren't going to be taking anybody to the playoffs. They're probably going to be taking you to jail, prison, or the hereafter. And even in the hereafter, the Polads will still charge you $15 for a hot dog. Speaking of hell, Stop the Steal Saturdays have been occurring outside of Governor Tim Walz's mansion every Saturday with Proud Boys, white supremacists, racists, and Trumpsters, if you can tell them all apart, if at all, to rally and say that the presidential election is being stolen and they want to stop the steal. Now, what's also been happening is a counter-protest with folks showing up against the Proud Boys, white supremacists, Trumpsters, and whatnot, saying, hey, Black Lives Matter, don't be racist, be a decent human being, fairly low bar, and really just accept the election as it is. I want to speak to somebody that was there not too long ago and really do what not a lot of public media outlets do. I want to speak to a black man in South Minneapolis. Excuse me, black man, can you tell us what happened last Saturday outside of the governor's mansion?
The Proud Boys were showing up to protest Trump having the vote stolen from him and the mask mandates and overall spewing their bullshit.
Okay, and what did you do?
I was there as a part of a security team helping keep the counter-protesters safe.
So how did it go?
It went well. It was my first time out there with the group. But since these fools have been out there or are going to be out there every Saturday, we are going to meet them out there every Saturday to show them they can't spew that shit. It went well. I think we were very loud. We were very obnoxious. And there was only like one or two little physical altercations that didn't really explode into anything much.
So for the Proud Boys and the white supremacists that were there, did you pick up on the energy that, they were about that action, that they were actually prepared for a physical altercation?
No. I was in my big truck that we'll cut to at a moment, maybe like right here. My truck can be like right there.
Yeah.
And then there was a little something on the front line, and so I shot in there to see what happened. The Proud Boys were spraying mace everyone. They sprayed an older woman in the face with mace, Linda. I ended up giving her a ride to the train, and by proxy was maced myself because I touched her bike. But once we kind of got our people separated, I walked the line between us and them, and a lot of them backed up as soon as I said, get back, you these, and you bitches, and you.
Now, as a black man, did you ever feel you were in danger with so many Proud Boys, white supremacists, and a lot of white folks on the other side of the line?
No.
Why
No,
not?
I felt, and it's gonna be weird, I never even thought about it till right this second, but I felt like all the white folks who was with us would have laid down for me, which is crazy because I have no idea who most of them people were. But now thinking about it, no, I didn't feel that me being a black man out there that day posed a risk. I was cursing out the cops and all of that. The first, it's crazy. It felt crazy, but I didn't feel in danger in that way. I feel like if there was a whole bunch of me's down there getting loud and getting in these folks' face and, maybe having some small physical altercations, I think that would be ballooned into something much bigger because the racial aspect. But when you have them white folks out there screaming at other white folks about how dumb they are, and they're the ones squabbing, it's very helpful because then I don't have to be the angry black man. I don't have to be the crazy, only know how to get physical black dude.
Now, what's happening this Saturday, and are you going to be there again?
I plan to be, we plan to have, last week was more like confront. Our two goals were to demoralize and disrupt. And I think this week we are going to we're just gonna go and have more of a party on the street and just hang out. But we will be prepared to do whatever we need to do to keep people safe.
Thank you so much for the time, Black man. And we wish you the best of luck next Saturday.
Appreciate you.
Wow, stirring story, really fascinating stuff going on outside of the governor's mansion on Saturdays. Stop the steal Saturday. The election's over, it's done. It really is. Hey, hold on a second, Black man. I want to ask you a quick question here. When you were out there outside of the governor's mansion that last Saturday amongst the white supremacists, Trumpsters, Proud Boys, and racists, if they're any different from each other, what was the craziest thing that you saw?
Yeah, so I was sitting in my truck, like I said, on the perimeter, kind of just keep an eye, and I see one of these dudes, one of them proud fellas with a tactical vest on, and I could see he had some silver, what looked like silver canisters in his vest. But when I got closer, I could see it was just White Claws. Literally the sparkling malt beverage, White Claw. And not only did he have those as though they were tear gas canisters, but where you would keep your pistol, on the chest, pint of Captain Morgan. You can't make this shit up, guys. It was bad. It was memorable.
Thanks for the time, brother.
Thank you.
Boom! And just like that, Lisa Bender announces her exit, and the new campaigns have come to the fray. Alicia Gibson has now put her name in the hat for City Council of Ward 10 going for 2021 elections. You can go to votealiciagibson.com to find the rest of her campaign. She is the president of Lowry Hill East Neighborhood Association, has a PhD from the U of M, has worked in South Africa. You can find so many more things about Alicia at votealiciagibson.com. And we're only going to keep you updated more and more and more as the city council and the mayor and all of these local elections come together, and really you're going to see an entirely new local leadership here in Minneapolis, and some are saying hopefully about time. With events going on this week, today, Friday, December 4th, 4 p.m. at 389 Hamlin Avenue North in St. Paul is a march against the St. Paul Police Department in direct action to the shooting of Jonathan Javante Washington, and essentially with the St. Paul Police Department and their erratic behavior of brutalizing bodies. And if you see any parallels between Washington, you can also find this happening with Justin Tigan as well, who was murdered by the St. Paul Police Department and was found in a dumpster as well. So if you look at kind of the history of the St. Paul Police Department, you'll see some patterns that are pretty overt and obvious. And we're seeing one that just happened a few days ago, and that's what people are going to be marching for, led by families supporting families against police violence. Say that 10 times fast. You can find the link for families supporting families against police violence below in the comments, and you can attend today at 4 p.m. We'll see you there. And this Saturday, there is another counter-protest going against the Stop the Steal Saturdays. That's Saturday, December 5th, 2:30 p.m. at Shortline Park, 1285 Summit Avenue in St. Paul, Minnesota. We will give some people just a kind of word of caution before going, since some people were maced by Proud Boys at the last action. Bring goggles and whatever you need to be prepared for any kind of altercations to happen, and there will be a lot of people there. So best of luck to folks attending anti-fascist action this Saturday. Also, bam, they're done. You asked for it, we brought them. Here they are, the mugs are here. We only have 25 of them, and if you noticed, usually when you sit with the mug, it's like this, and you see the thing, or it's like this, and you see the thing. We screwed up and we put it right here. So there's 25 special of these guys, maybe 24 because I saw one of the handles broken off in the box. So we're gonna label each one of them on the bottom. It's just a limited edition, and there's only 25 of them. So purchase them now in the link below. It's the first mugs we've ever made, and gosh darn it, hopefully it's not the last. That being said, you're not a public media company until you have coffee mugs, and now we have them. We love y'all. Thank you so much for the support. We will definitely see you in the next one. Be safe out there this weekend, and yeah, our work is never done. Boom!